And it is a personal privilege for me to welcome General Ehsan. It is personal because when he was at the peak of his distinguished career, I was also working for the government in Islamabad, and his presence was a source of reassurance and support. He has served the Pakistan Army for 40 years, 4 decades, and has held the highest security positions in our country. He was Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee of Pakistan from 2004 to 2007. He was Director General of the Inter-Services Intelligence. He was also Director General of Military Intelligence and the Corps Commander of Peshawar. When he was responsible for security in the tribal areas of Pakistan. He graduated from the Pakistan Army Command and Staff College, Quetta, and also the People's Liberation Army Air Defense Commanders Academy in Zhengzhou in the People's Republic of China. He has got a master's degree in war studies from the National Defense University in Islamabad. After his retirement, he is associated with a number of think tanks. He is chairman of 101 Friends of China in Pakistan and of another think tank in Islamabad called Pakistan House. He is also an honorary mentor for strategic and security studies at the National Defense University in Islamabad. He has participated in track 2 parties. He's spoken at international forums, universities and think tanks. He has received many awards. Hilali-Imtiaz Military and Nishani-Imtiaz Military, both from the government of Pakistan. He has also received an award from the French government and the King Abdulaziz Medal of Excellence from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We are extremely fortunate that he has agreed to be with us today, and he will speak on Pakistan, national security challenges and the way forward. General Sir.
The contemporary external and internal challenges that Pakistan confronts, a very interesting time, and the way forward. And when I was coming here, I did prepare a script, although I was conscious that with our present Prime Minister, it is somewhat out of fashion to speak out of scripts. But I thought with a distinguished forum like this, I must speak well-considered, deliberate words before we engage in a Q&A. So please bear with me, I will not take too long with the script, and then we can have a Q&A session. Pakistan, like any self-respecting nation, has been striving to create conducive environments for its citizens to live with honor, dignity and self-respect in accordance with the wishes of our founding fathers. Unfortunately, ever since our creation, we have been confronted with daunting challenges in the realization of our objectives. These challenges have an external dimension as well as a domestic matrix. In the increasingly complex and insecure global and regional environment, the distinction between external and internal dynamic is blurring, warranting an integrated evaluation and responses. I shall briefly cover these issues by first talking about the external environment and challenges, then our domestic challenges, with a few words about our successes in the war against terrorism. And then, of course, I'll talk about the opportunities and the way forward that we have. Pakistan's strategic environment has been molded by its location at the crossroads of geopolitical landscape, rivalry of the super and other great powers in this region, the extended strife and consequent destabilization in Afghanistan, stunning developments to our immediate west in the Middle East and the Gulf region, unrelenting hegemonic great power aspirations and ambitions of India, aggravated by the rise of Hindutva and the unresolved status of the Jammu and Kashmir. The emergence of a neighboring China as a global power has unfolded a new paradigm, shifting the geopolitical center of gravity to the Asia-Pacific, or the Indo-Pacific as it has recently been renamed, triggering strategic realignments. The most important of these is the strategic understanding between a rising China and a rejuvenating Russia, which have projected a new vision of cooperation for development and stability in Eurasia and beyond, through the SCO framework and the Eurasia overland linkages. The tripolar dynamic between the United States, China, and Russia is evoking concerns of a new Cold War and directly impacting the correlation of forces in Asia. The US focus on the Indo-Pacific and the US-Indian Strategic Alliance projects India as a regional net security provider with immediate and momentous consequences for the balance of power in South Asia, particularly Pakistan, as India has been seeking to leverage the United States against Pakistan. A few words about the regional environment. To our immediate west, in the Middle East, stunning developments have seriously complicated the geopolitical calculus. Concerns over the rise of Iran as a regional hegemon with a distinctly sectarian agenda, United States and Russian strategic posturing and rivalry in and beyond Syria, rising sectarian tensions, civil wars, conflicts, and the dangers of internal destabilization generate a widespread sense of crisis. All states in the region, extending from Lebanon to Pakistan, are multi-ethnic and multi-sect. Any tampering with these issues in one state is bound to have a domino effect. Today, we find Sunni jihadists like the Daesh and Al-Qaeda and transnational Shia forces contesting to fill the void of weakening states in the region. For Pakistan, these developments pose critical diplomatic and relationship challenges with our traditional strategic partners, Saudi Arabia and its allies on the one hand, and neighboring Iran, as well as Qatar on the other. And we are witnessing how India has exploited these opportunities. Closer home, amongst our neighbors, Pakistan shares common geographical, historical, religious, and cultural bonds with Afghanistan. No country has suffered more on account of the continuing strife in Afghanistan than Pakistan. Peace and stability in Afghanistan is vital for Pakistan's own long-term prosperity, security, and progress. In the absence of a military solution, Pakistan from day one has been unswerving in its support to a peace process or a political solution. The recent round of talks in Qatar have raised hopes that, as in the words of Prime Minister Imran Khan, peace is around the corner. And you might be reading in the news for the last few days that there may be an agreement signed either this week or next week between the Taliban and the United States. However, we have to be cautious in our optimism, given the internal power struggles in Afghanistan, the domestic political agendas in the United States, particularly in the belt zone around DC, the machinations of those who benefit from the Afghan war economy, as well as the stakeholders amongst the regional countries and their proxies. These elements, in my view, have to be contained or convinced to support the peace process. There is also a legitimate concern whether a US, Taliban, and predominantly influenced by the differences between India and Pakistan, a history of conflict, unresolved disputes, particularly the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, India's relentless arms build-up in pursuit of its hegemonic ambitions and great power status continue to haunt Indo-Pakistan relations. In its efforts to subdue Pakistan, India has unleashed a covert campaign to subvert Pakistan by fomenting terrorism and insurgencies. Irrefutable evidence of Indian interference in the internal affairs of Pakistan directly and exploiting its influence and presence in Afghanistan were highlighted by the confessions of a serving Indian naval officer, Kulbhushan Yadav, and by the spokesman of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, unfortunately my namesake, Ehsan. And these have been a source of deep concern. Over the last 5 years of the fanatic Hindu-dominated Modi government, Indian attitude became increasingly belligerent. It repeatedly spurns Pakistan's offers for resumption of dialogue on some pretext or the other. Prime Minister Modi's blatant admission of intervention in East Pakistan, references to Balochistan and the Gilgit-Baltistan, threats to abrogate the Indus Water Treaty, disruption of the SAARC summit process, escalation along the line of controls, claims of phony surgical strikes, and generating a domestic hysteria of confrontation have escalated in the tensions in this region. With the start of the mass uprising and consequent Indian atrocities in Kashmir since 2016, operationalization of the CPACs, prospects of peace in Afghanistan, and thaw in US-Pakistan relations, India has become even more frustrated and jingoistic. The standoff in the wake of Pulwama and the August 5 measures to dismember the historic status of Jammu and Kashmir did not come as a surprise. For quite some time, informed circles internationally, as well as some sane elements in India, had been expressing alarm that Modi and his fascist allies, the Sangh Parivar as they are called, comprising the RSS, the VHP, and the Bajrang Dal, may go to any limits to promote their agenda of a Hindu Rashtra, including the unleashing of war against Pakistan and genocide of the minorities in India, particularly in the Indian-occupied Kashmir. In pursuit of his strategic ambitions, India already offers itself to play a leading role in the Indian Ocean and South China Sea to support the containment of China. Consequently, India has also been an exceptional beneficiary of the West's double and triple standards on disarmament and non-proliferation. Dehyphenation of India and Pakistan to sponsor India's strategic build-up while subjecting Pakistan to discriminatory restrictions seriously undermines the strategic stability in South Asia. On the back of this support, India continuously challenges the credibility of Pakistan's nuclear deterrence through doctrinal as well as technological provocations in the form of proactive operations doctrine, what is called cold start, then large-scale conventional weapon acquisitions, introduction of ballistic missile defenses, nuclearization of the Indian Ocean, and of course, the latest, ambivalence on the no first use of nuclear weapons. Pakistan, on its part, will not move away from its policy of peaceful coexistence and avoiding an undesirable arms race while ensuring the defense of its sovereignty and vital interests. The external threat, the external direct threat to the security of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, continues to be predominantly from India. There is overwhelming evidence that India tried to reverse partition for many, many years after 1947. The recent past, emboldened by its economic growth and egged on by the patronage of the Indo-US nexus, Indian strategic ambitions in the region and against Pakistan have been magnifying and got a particular boost when the Hindutva ideology came in practical shape during the BJP government. Unfortunately, in the post-9/11 environment of Islamophobia and negative narratives, there has been a dilution of national consensus on the existential threat from India within Pakistan. And even questions are posed about the very basis of our creation, that is the two-nation theory. I sincerely hope, the annexation of Indian-occupied Kashmir, brutalization of the Kashmiris and Indian Muslims, and the fascist mindset of the Modi regime will be a wake-up call for us in Pakistan. As for our western borders, for the foreseeable future, we do not envisage any direct military threat of a strategic dimension. However, we cannot lose sight of the Indo-Afghan Strategic Agreement, Indian security and military presence in Afghanistan, and its exploitation of Afghan friendship to extend intelligence operations into our western provinces. Let me also say a few words about indirect threats, that is the fifth generation warfare or hybrid threats. The trend is shifting from hard power to soft power. Coercion is preferred over compellence. This coercive strategy is driven by offensive diplomacy, socio-cultural subversion, exploitation of internal fault lines, and media onslaughts. All these are classic elements of hybrid warfare. Now, let me say a few words about our domestic challenges. Weakness of state institutions, insecure frontiers, and lack of economic and industrial base were the most obvious challenges that we confronted on our independence. These problems were further accentuated by internal factors such as a constitutional vacuum and extra-constitutional interventions, the role of retrogressive religious, ethnic and tribal forces, illiteracy, population explosion, economic mismanagement, social and regional disparities, and increasing militarization in the society. These internal fault lines were exploited by external forces, particularly in the context of Kashmir and Afghanistan. Pakistan's role in Afghanistan caused a proliferation of madrasas and weapons and promoted what's called the jihadi culture, an ideology that was internationally promoted to support the Afghan jihad. Post 9/11 events brought a paradigm shift, with militancy and terrorism emerging as an existential challenge, threatening the entire fabric of Pakistan's security structure, in fact, our societal existence. The most ill-fated facet of this menace is that Pakistan has been hit the hardest, and with no regard for our immense sacrifices, we are blamed to be the epicenter of global terrorism. I'll just say a few words about some of these internal challenges. First one, identity and nation building. When we became independent, we were faced with a monumental challenge to formulate a national identity separate from the Indian identity. Even today, when it comes to India, we project a very strong national fervor. However, within our own internal dynamic, we are unfortunately dominated by strong ethnic identities, except on some inspired occasion. For example, if you win a World Cup. Few words about political instability and rule of law. Decaying political system based on feudal, hereditary political institutions have led to regionalism and provincialism, lack of respect for constitution and law, and of course military interventions, disfiguring of the 73 constitution, weakening and discrediting of institutions, corruption, nepotism, rise of ethnicity, and strengthening of subnationalism with no consensus on critical national issues. Punjab is viewed as a hindrance because of its size to national integration, and there continues to be greater and greater demands for more provinces, for which unfortunately we don't have very supportive constitutional mechanisms. Poor governance, provincial disharmony, and particularly the disharmony is impacting on resource sharing, development of reservoirs, and provincial autonomy. A few words about extremism and sectarianism. This has raged ever since our creation on whether we were to be a modern state with Islamic injunctions at our core, or a state under the Sharia law, or a theocracy. Impact of the Nizam-e-Mustafa movement against Bhutto, the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, the Iranian Revolution, the Iran-Iraq War, the policies of Islamization during General Zia's government, the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, demise and re-rise of the Taliban, and the post-9/11 paradigm. I think this explains the whole phenomenon. we can discuss more details required. Economic security. We have been vulnerable for a very long time, and we are recognized internationally as a single tranche country which can't even complete its IMF program. And we are always on the verge of default, particularly when a new government comes on the scene. Every time that is the story. We have poor revenue generation due to no tax culture, long fiscal deficits, low growth rates, poverty due to overpopulation, youth bulge, and unemployment. Of course, now we have non-industrialization or de-industrialization, high cost of business, energy deficiencies, which fortunately have been covered, but the costs are so high that the issue has now become one of affordability. High rates of inflation and corruption. I'll just mention the next two, energy security and water security, and leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, the most ominous aspect of Pakistan's internal challenges over the last 2 decades has been the scourge of terrorism. Pakistan has been a victim and in the front line against the so-called international struggle against violent extremism and terrorism. Over the last 18 years, we have borne the main brunt of Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorism that caused almost 70,000 casualties and more than 120 billion in costs, in financial costs or lost opportunities. However, it hasn't weakened Pakistan and the people of Pakistan's resolve. The people, armed forces and the security services of Pakistan have, and I quote a very famous professor, Christine Fair, who is now a very, very rabid detractor of Pakistan internationally, and these are her words. She said, the people of the armed forces and the security services of Pakistan have committed more forces, achieved more successes, and offered more sacrifices in supporting this struggle than any other country in the world, unquote. She teaches in George Washington University, downtown Washington, D.C. For the world at large, success in the war against this scourge was vital. For us in Pakistan, it was an existential issue. And the good news is that ours has been a success story. Only 4 to 5 years back, we would have almost 150 terrorist incidents every month. It's now down to 1 odd every few months. To give you a clear sense of the transformational nature of the change in the security environment, I would like to highlight some figures. You would have heard them, but let me use them to emphasize what I am saying. In 2009, sorry, I have to bear with your mics. In 2009, there were 11,704 fatalities in terrorist acts throughout Pakistan. In 2009, 11,700. This was the highest ever. You would recall that the military operations in Swat and other parts of the tribal areas were launched in 2009. By 2013, this figure had reduced to 5,379 from 9,700. It was in 2013-14 that Operation Zarb-e-Azb and the Ranger operations in Karachi were launched. The Karachi operation was aimed at dismantling the politico-militant nexus that had held this megacity hostage. As a consequence, in 2016, the fatalities had dropped. There were 5,379 in 2013. In 2016, they had dropped to 1,800. And last year, I was looking for the figures of this year, but they are not complete. In 2018, they had dropped to 600. A drop of more than 90% has occurred in the last 4 to 5 years. Now, a more interesting figure. In 2013, according to Numbeo, you can note down, you can go on the net, you can just Google Numbeo International Crime Index. And it says, in 2000, Karachi was the 6th most dangerous city in the world in 2013, according to this very index. And this is a US-based index. Today, it stands at 71. From 6, it has gone down to 71. And listen to the more interesting part. And if you, of course, monitor this index regularly, Karachi's position is falling every day. I remember I was speaking somewhere else a couple of weeks back and it was 63 or 64. It's now down to 71 when I saw it yesterday. I don't know what is it today. Now in the same index, I mean we keep bashing ourselves and how sort of narratives are built against us. In the same very index, Delhi is 65. Karachi is 71, and we are not talking about Lahore and Islamabad. We are talking about Karachi. Karachi is 71, Delhi is 65. That means there are 6 positions higher than us. Please understand, the number 1 is Caracas in Venezuela. Sorry? Venezuela. And Delhi is 65. And Karachi is 71. Chicago is 40. Dhaka, we keep hearing so much. There's so many good things are happening in Bangladesh. Dhaka is 40. And Kuala Lumpur, where a lot of our guys are going and investing, it's a safe haven for a lot of Pakistanis. The index says it is 28. Karachi 71 and Kuala Lumpur is 28. I thought this comparison was more important than merely the figure of 71. Now, in my concluding part, I tell you the opportunities that we have and the way forward that I see. In the globalized and interconnected world, we cannot insulate ourselves from the regional and global developments, nor can we be isolated by Indian Chanakyan machinations. In fact, in the unfolding regional dynamic, Pakistan's geostrategic vulnerabilities are gradually being overcome, particularly as the post-9/11 paradigm in the region comes to a close in the context of Afghanistan. You would agree with me that we would be able to effectively cope with the challenges and exploit the opportunities if we are prepared for all these emerging eventualities. These preparations would well entail a review of a broad spectrum of national policies, strategies, and actions. I shall merely list some of the key areas to give you a sense of what I am indicating. First, we need clarity on hardcore national interests. What are our national interests? Second, national cohesion and consensus on core issues. Third, political stability, internal security, and economic self-sustenance. Fourth, a proactive foreign policy, not a reactive one, as we are witnessing after 5th of August. We need a proactive one. We should have been able to foresee what was coming, and all the measures should have been moving before 5th August happened. And finally, we require credible national narratives. We are the victims of a lot of negative narratives. We need to evolve very credible national narratives. The bottom line, we have to put our house in order. This is the first thing that I wanted to say on the way forward. The situation underlines the significance of a time-tested strategic partnership with China and, of course, consolidating the recent warming of relations with Russia. However, it is equally a beneficial relationship with the United States, which gives Pakistan some exceptional benefits that may not be forthcoming in any other alternative. We hope we can build up on the recent successful visit of the Prime Minister. Combined with the distinct improvement in our internal security situation and, let me add, the macro stabilization of our economy which is underway, we need to re-energize, and I'm using the word re-energize, CPAC, which is expected to unlock dramatic developments in regional connectivity and industrial revival to realize the vision of Pakistan as an energy and economic hub. With regards to our neighbors in South Asia, you would agree with me that we are endeavoring our best to support peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan. A peaceful, stable, and friendly Afghanistan can be transformational. As for India, we must be realistic and vigilant to the existential challenges of the inexorable rise of genocidal fascism of Hindutva. Let's have no more surprises. A lot of people have been saying that we are surprised. Let's not have any more surprises. We have also sacrificed enormously in the struggle against terrorism over the last 18 years. Zarb-e-Azb and Radd al-Fasad have been a game changer. Its dividends are now emerging. Changing travel advisories of European states and recommencement of their airline flights are positive developments. However, we have a long way to go. We need international support and understanding of our legitimate stand on Kashmir and sincere support for a stable, peaceful Afghanistan. And above all, we want the world to understand the rise of a bigoted, hegemonic Hindu Rashtra. We do not want our efforts to be undermined by the narratives of Jaish Muhammad or disinformation about sanctuaries anymore. This is the challenge that we have to overcome. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, you might have come across a famous article by Mr. Andrew Korybko, a prominent Moscow-based strategic commentator. He wrote, and I quote, "As astounding as it may stand to most observers, the global pivot state of the 21st century isn't China, the United States, nor Russia, but Pakistan. An objective look at the country's geostrategic and domestic capabilities reveal that it's in a prime position to influentially shape the contours of the coming century, and incidentally has been supported in these views by a number of Western analysts, including Robert Chase, Emily Hill, Paul Kennedy. You would agree with me that the challenges we confront are phenomenal. However, the good news is that our national capacity is even greater. We have been exposed to an extended period and confluence of external and domestic pressures. However, our resilience and sacrifices have helped us survive it, and we are now at the cusp of a strategic transformation into a stronger and prosperous state, provided we realize, we look around ourselves, we hold together as a unified state, conscious of our destiny and aware of the lessons that we have learned over the last 72 years. I thank you.
Wow. And that is on the question of Kashmir. can save the life of an Indian spy who we mentioned. Can we not go to the International Court of Justice for the 1 crore people of Kashmir who have been oppressed and raped and genocide, subjected to genocide? That's my question. What's the problem?
So that's a very good question, but unfortunately I am not the right person to answer that. But I take heart from the various statements coming from the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister and the Army Chief and many other Pakistani dignitaries who have said that they will go to any limit to support the Kashmiris. And any limit means inclusive of all forums internationally, including the International Court of Justice. But obviously it requires preparation. It requires very professional preparation. Unfortunately, we sometimes are not very good at that. We need professional preparation, and we don't have to, it doesn't have to be a knee-jerk reaction. We need to prepare and go about it deliberately.
You were heading the premier agency, Ehsan, during 2001 and 2004.
Introduce
I'm Dr. Khabar Mehdi, and I'm from Commonwealth Karachi, it's an NGO. Now the question relates to the period when you were heading the premier agency during 2001-2004. That's a very critical period. It's a takeoff point for Pakistan. And I have a question in regards to Nawab al-Bukti. Now, earlier, and actually this is my personal communication with him, I hear a very good impression of General Musharraf. And I was quite shocked, because I was talking to him, this is 2002. And he says, Maqul insan lagte hain. And Manika is a general, of course I know that. And Manika, aapse kabhi guftagu hui hai. Bolte nahi, guftagu to my interaction, bolte nahi. मैंने कहा कुछ मिलने में आपको कुछ एतराज होगा, मुझे क्यों होगा? Now, subsequently, that famous flight, right, and you would know better about it, goes to Derabuti, it lands in Sui. There's a technical fault that supposedly develops in the plane, and Nawab Sahib goes to his rest house in Sui. He waits, and he's told that the plane is not worthy, cannot fly. So he changes his plan, and he's driving back to his nephew, calls him, and Nawab Sahib, the plane just took off. And naturally, he was quite a man, a lot of ego. He was very upset. And later on, when he narrated this, he told me, the general got me this time, I'll get back on him, Next time when there was a call from President House, and the ADC calls him, and there was Ramzan. Rose the General Sahib would like to have iftari with you. And Nawab Sahib goes, I'm agnostic, I don't fast, so thank you for the invitation. Now, I would like you to shed some light on that, what actually happened.
I can shed a lot of light on things up till October 2004, or at least leave some things for me to write a book later on. If I tell you everything right here for free, then nobody will buy my book. But on a more serious note, not that I'm writing a book, please, don't. On a more serious note, yes. Your observations are correct, and there was very close engagement with Nawab Bukti Sahib. At least I can speak to the time I was in that position. So when I got promoted, then somebody else took that responsibility, as you understand. Until that time, there was no crisis in that relationship. There was engagement. And there was fairly good opinions all around about each other. And I may also say that on this particular point, I think the aircraft incident also happened later, not in my time. In my time, Nawab Sahib didn't want to come out of Derabuti. Well, a lot of persuasion, a lot of efforts were made that he should come out. Wherever he wants to come out. And in a very dignified, respectable way, there was no unfortunately, it won't happen, the rest is history.
Commented that the previous war, the anti-Soviet war, it was fought by drug money. Drug money. Anti-Soviet war.
In the 80s.
Yes. Don't you think that the war on terror is also being fought by drug money?
I, frankly speaking, when the first Soviet war was fought, I was a very young man. I was a major, and then later end of it, I was a lieutenant colonel. But I was blessed to have been exposed at the highest possible level in Pakistan before the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and after the Soviet operation of Afghanistan. Because I was posted in GH2, I was posted in the Military Operations Directorate, and there used to be an organization called the Afghan Cell, headed by the President himself, and it had everybody who mattered in Pakistan, including Mr. Ghulam Khan, Mr. Ala Shahi, General Akhtar Abdul Rahman, General Fazl Haq, General Rahimuddin, just to name some. I can go on. General K. M. Arif, still around, and I am a direct in the room part, not participant, but because I was the note taker, I was the secretary. I am a witness to that. At what level drugs were used to fight that war was not visible at that.
It has been documented. It's 1200 pages book by an American professor. I had that book, but somebody took it to America.
But as I said, I was there in the room. So if he can claim that he was in the room, and I am giving you my impression, not to contest what he said, or contest his research, he has researched it. I am telling you my impressions. Now, as far as this current war is concerned, yes, drugs are an important factor today in the Afghan economy. And naturally, drugs are also an important factor in how the various stakeholders in the Afghan war have, sort of played their game. I think that should be enough. The rest, who has taken how much has gone to the Taliban, how much have gone to ministers and to intermediaries and to international actors and smugglers, and I leave to your research that big book.
Walid Jawad is my name. I'm a businessman.
When I've been now retired almost 10 years, and I keep very busy on these track 2 circuits and lecture circuits and other such activities. So a lot of my old friends, people who know me, who've seen me in much busier times in my life, they always ask me, what do you do, Jansa? What do you do now? And my answer is that 90% of my energy and time is spent in staying out of trouble. The question you are asking me is to put me into trouble. I don't normally comment, I don't respond to politically loaded questions.
What do I do with my suffering, our suffering?
Now, so leave out the political side of it. Purely from a national perspective, we are in a very challenging time. And it is our experience that dispensations that we have seen that come about, they always have some capabilities, some shortfalls. I mean, to expect that our government will go and the next which is brought in or voted in will be an ideal dispensation, I think is not a very realistic expectation. There will always be shortfalls, there will be some positives, some negatives. Secondly, when we compare dispensations, you have to also compare the objective environment. Number one. You have also to compare the time frames in which those dispensations have applied their policies, their strategies, and their energies. I think it will not be fair to equate dispensations, presently, when we have had a government for 12 months, and we have had other dispensations which, when Mr. Nawaz Sharif was the Prime Minister, when he was elected the Prime Minister for the first time, I was a Lieutenant Colonel and I had to write a brief, and I was in GHQ for the briefing of the Prime Minister because he was come visiting GHQ for the first time. Now, when he became the Prime Minister this time, I was looking left and right. I said, I have been retired 8 years. He's almost my age. He became the Prime Minister when I was a Lieutenant Colonel. I have gone, my head has touched the roof. There is no place beyond the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff in the system. But he is still coming back and being the Prime Minister. I mean, we need to look at our system. It's not the dispensation. It's the system sometimes which doesn't let you.
Who decides the objective?
You see, if you're talking of political objectives, then you have to look within the parties how the objectives are decided. If you're looking at the objectives of the state, then you have to look at the political parties. You have to look at what is described as the establishment. You have to study what are the aspirations of the people. You have to study what are the realities, present, future. And an amalgam of those will provide you the objectives.
I got my answer.
Zubaida, आप पूछना चाहेंगी? Zubaida sir.
पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज पे बात नहीं करना चाहते तो मुझको फिक्र है
वो पूछिए
कि आप लोग जो इसकी जो बात करते हैं कि the security situation has improved, I mean of course that makes me happy that we can look forward to something, but what do you make of this over 200 million people and what is happening in the country? वो तो आप कह देंगे कि it's the government उनका काम है. But I don't think you can really separate things like that. What is happening to the health sector, how people, I mean, there might be an implosion rather than explosion in the country. Because things, although many promises have been made, but we still have to wait and we don't know how things will go. And the defense budget, by the way, it was always said it's been cut down. But when we studied it, it has gone up, even this year. I think just a week after the Prime Minister and the Chief of Army Staff had said that it's been cut down. Maybe you could explain that since you said you will talk about politics also.
I think I'll tell my good friend Hafiz Sheikh to come and confirm this one, whether it has gone up or gone down. But there was I'm starting the tail end of your question, so please bear with me. So I got locked onto the defense budget. A few days back, there was a criticism of this government and the Prime Minister by the opposition saying that he has brought down the defense budget from $9 billion to $7 billion. Can somebody, endorse what I've said? This is an opposition statement saying that the Prime Minister, despite all that he's saying, he has reduced the defense budget from $9 billion to $7 billion. Now, I don't have any inside information from the Ministry of Finance, but I read that statement and I said, well, that's too big a cut in 1 year to reduce from $9 billion to $7 billion, given what I've talked of the external challenges and how they have realized particularly after the 5th of August. My own view is that there is a reduction, because the Prime Minister said it, we'll hold it at last year's level, but fine. If they will hold it at last year's level in terms of rupee, then this rupee has gone down by a very big margin. But that is why when somebody said, no, it's gone down from $9 to $7 billion, that was a sort of a wake-up call for me personally, having been, in the armed forces. Now, with regards to the other issues, absolutely, I did list out the serious issues of governance that I highlighted, whether it is related to poor governance, whether it is related to our unstable politics, whether it is our economic straits and its difficulties. Those challenges are there, and to that much the government is responsible. It has accepted that responsibility by being the government. So naturally they are responsible. By no way can they be let off on that count. Yes, one has to view it objectively again, that these problems, you can give a direction in 1 year, you can give a good direction, and you can get a good sense of whether the direction is correct or not. But obviously, it would be unrealistic to expect significant addressal of these challenges in 1 year or 2 years, or it might be even in one term of a government. It will take longer because our challenges are far more deeper and far more complex than to be addressed by a government. And again, for that, my parting words from the rostrum were, provided we hold the state as a polity, not merely government versus the rest. Everybody else is trying to drag it down. So Hukumat is responsible for collecting the trash, and everybody is making trash, will never succeed. We as a society have to also respond to the challenges. And this is something for all of us. This is not merely a government responsibility, I feel.
Sir, so Assalamu alaikum.
Please introduce yourself.
Deactivated Subedar Muhammad Kamran Faruqi from NG Sector 5.
Great.
So my question is that, how should Pakistan respond and counter international north-south transport corridor, which is considered to be the geopolitical hate of India for Pakistan?
You're talking of the north-south
Yes.
corridor.
And my second question is that, its seabed is quite enough to provide the geopolitical bounties for Pakistan?
Okay. That's a very good question, and genuinely a strategic question. Now, I don't know whether you read it in the National Guard. We don't teach strategy in the National Guard, but what are you doing now?
Sir, I am engaged in studying all these things.
So, mashallah.
I've
Great.
been associate member since 1991-92 of this institution.
Great.
And
Great.
secondly, I'm also working on revamping the national security institutions of Pakistan.
Very
Since
good.
1994, I've been working on that. But unfortunately, I'm not getting the breakthrough.
Okay. Okay. As far as the north-south corridor is concerned, of course, the Indians would like to, sort of isolate us, corner us, take us out of anything that is happening anywhere. It is the Indian design, which is understandable, their design of dominating this region, their design of exercising hegemony, their design of a Hindu Rashtra extending from Pakistan to Myanmar, or rather Afghanistan to Myanmar. So to that extent it is an Indian design, but it doesn't necessarily have to work out that way, because all the other members of the north-south corridor, starting from Iran and going to Russia, are very friendly to Pakistan, and that is not an exclusive Indian domain or dominated area. It is an inclusive strategic connectivity corridor. So if the Indians can use it, and the Iranians can use it, and Turkmenistan, going through the Caucasus and going to, everybody can use it, so can we. Yes, it doesn't have to meander, it doesn't have to come to our homes and go like this. We will have to develop lateral connectivities to that.
But sir, Indians have offered the Persians to build just like a tantamount to the Suez Canal by cutting from the Zagros mountain like this to connect the Caspian Sea with the Persian Gulf.
It will be very good for us also, please don't worry. If it is made, first of all, these are...
They are just countering the CPAC.
Yeah. Okay, now this, I personally feel this can only, this is somewhat stretched. I don't want to say more than unrealistic. I don't want to use the word unrealistic. It's stretched. The second thing is the CPAC. And I will be happy to answer that question because I'd like to share with you that I was the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was 2005, October or November. And it was my visit to China we have a high-level military dialogue as is happening nowadays. It keeps happening. So when I was going, I was called by the President, then General Pervez Musharraf, and he said, I believe you're going to China? I said, yes. He said, we've been discussing this strategic, economic, and energy corridor. It's now become CPAC. It was called Strategic, Economic, and Energy Corridor. And he said that, I'm going to China in February 2006, 3 months later, and I am going to raise this with President Hu Jintao at that time. So he said, I want you to do the curtain raiser on that. I said, fine. I'll be too happy. It'll be an honor, historic honor. And this was, I said, October or November, when I met in China along with our investor, Mr. Salman Bashir, who was later the Foreign Secretary. And I met the Chinese Foreign Minister, and I said, sir, I've been tasked to do a curtain raiser for a project that we want to recommend. And that will be an economic, strategic economic and energy corridor connecting the coast of Pakistan. Listen to my word, the coast of Pakistan, not Gwadar, all of them, from Karachi to Gwadar, with China. And the primary focus was on a rail connectivity. And we had again got hard, because that was the time in 2005 or 6 when China had linked Lhasa in Tibet with Chengdu in China, a famous railway line, which goes at about what height? 4,000 meters? 12,000. At some places. Yeah. And where the mask falls, when you're traveling in an airplane, the mask falls when the oxygen level is a little low. So we had got hard and we had told the Chinese that, look guys, if you can make a railway line to Lhasa and Tibet, this Punjab is not that bad. And in any case, you need to make a tunnel. You don't have to come over it. Now, no single project solves all problems and provides answers to all questions. As you asked me, no, it doesn't. But this is a strategic, game changer. I don't want to use, some people started calling it a fate changer and stuff. No, this is a strategic activity which will have very serious connectivity impact, not only on Pakistan and China, on the whole region. I am convinced of that.
The gentleman in the wearing a cap at the back. Yes, sir. अपना तारुफ कराइए.
My name is Rashid. I am a activist of civil society, and army has a discipline. And when will the politicians will have a discipline?
Trouble if we have to answer it very frankly. But sir, this is a very serious question actually what you have asked. Yes, Pakistan's one of our serious problems is a leadership problem. And leadership comes out of politics. You don't come out of academies. National leadership comes out of politics. And politics are, and when we talk of politics, leadership in politics are groomed through institutions. Political parties are institutions. The local bodies are institutions. The provincial legislature and the national legislatures are institutions. Unfortunately, whether it is the political parties or whether it's these institutions, their performance leave much to be desired. They leave much to be desired. But that is something which I think we as a nation is to expect that no, somebody who is beneficiary of the system will change it. Why should he change it? If I was sitting there and I am sure that my son or my daughter will also be sitting in my place, and then my grandchildren, I'll damn well make sure I don't change it. And I'll write my will for them, don't change it. But it is for the society at large to realize that this is critical for the future of this country. And if we can put right those, then we will be able to throw up leadership which is well groomed, which is competent, which is honest, which is patriotic, and of course disciplined.
आप जरा रुकिए, आप रुकिए, मैं जरा अब्दुल कादिर जाफर साहब को I give you the floor.
Sir, welcome.
Yes.
Sir, I have something very personal to ask you. We are originally from Pune, Nepal. आपने इतनी जबरदस्त तकलीफ सुनाई है. I'm sure when we all go back, we always remember. But what I've ये personal people like you, who have so much material in your head, it has got to be transformed. People, मुल्क में नहीं है, किसको पता है? आज मेहरबानी thanks to this young lady,
Yeah, I agree with you.
that you are here today. तो कब मुलाकात है? आप जैसे लोगों को you've got to go on to the television, go on to the radio, you've got to educate people. Such sir, I'm very sorry.
Maybe you are not cleared yet.
No, he's cleared. He's retired 6 years, 5 years ago. So please, seriously, मैं कहता हूँ कि if you want to talk on the television, I'll get something for you, sir. I have a very good friend. अब जब आप बोलेंगे वो आप ही accept.
Yeah, because how better way you will interview me on the television.
I'm always trying to convince him, but he's not ready.
Let's say very kind of you. So very good words about me.
Sir, number two, ये कि कभी इंडिया पाकिस्तान की दोस्ती कभी होगी कि नहीं होगी? You have been at important position. I'm sure you must have done a lot to bring us together. Why is the distance increasing instead of shortening?
So first of all, thank you very much for these kind words. Let me kill this issue about why I don't come on the media. I do come on the media, but I've told my friends, I have lots of friends in the media, that I'll give one interview in a year. Don't ask me for a second one, because I don't think there is so much to talk every day. You know, if you come every day, then people will not listen to me. If I come once a year, then I think listen to me more intently and carefully.
Once in 3 months is okay, sir.
That is one. Second thing is, sir, that I get enormous amount of opportunities to speak, to represent Pakistan, and to clear my conscience in terms of upholding what I think is the national interest. And that is internationally on all these forums. Something which many other people who come on the TV are neither invited to go over there, nor get that opportunity, or neither are appreciated. I am invited to Stanford and Harvard. I am invited to the Stanford and Harvard of China. I am invited to all the key London School of Economics and this, that and the other. I am a very regular speaker there. And I, on these track tours on Afghanistan and Kashmir and nuclear and name it, on the Middle East and North Africa. And so I get a lot of opportunities to say what I am saying in front of you. And that is something most people cannot do. The international aspect or the international representation, which is also, that is another front which has to be held.
Very important.
So that is one. Second, sir, is with regards to India and Pakistan, can we ever be friends? So there are two aspects. One, the geostrategic aspect of it, which teaches us ever since we were young, also sitting here, that in a geographic, in a geostrategic domain, in zone or a domain, there is always a tussle for power, and there is always one power which has to dominate the other. There can't be. An equilibrium is not really in the fitness of strategic, in a domain. The balancing has to be done in different ways. For example, there is Israel and the Middle East. I am taking a less example. If I take India and Pakistan, now the balance is achieved by Israel being supported from outside the region. Now, coming to, despite this geostrategic background, we give it a very sincere try to make friends with India. Very, very sincerely we tried. Whether it was called out of the box thinking or whether it was called let's forget about the past and look front. Don't look in the rear mirror, keep looking up front. We tried all those things. But then there are some realities. That's why I use the word we should be realistic. We should not be unrealistic. When I say why I'm saying unrealistic, we tried to develop a relationship with India which is unilateral, which is not based on reciprocity. You can never develop a sustainable relationship unilaterally. It has to be reciprocal. और मैं आपको उसकी मिसाल देता हूँ. When was the last time an Indian Prime Minister visited Pakistan? 2004, when Vajpayee came to Islamabad, and then that, hop in at Lahore, or drive-in rather than Pakistan, by Mr. Modi. It wasn't really. It was said it was a birthday visit to Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's house, or wedding of his granddaughter, or something. But it wasn't really a visit in that sense of, where heads of governments or states visit each other. When there is formal preparation, there are formal ceremonies, there are formal dialogues, there are formal communiques. No. Oh, that is the situation. Mr. Vajpayee is the last one who came. Now tell me which Pakistani leader has not gone to India on some pretext or the other. Musharraf went there. After that was Mr. Yusuf Raza Gilani. He went to see a one-day or a cricket match or something. Then was Zardari Saab went on some other pretext. Then there was Parvez Ashraf was there as the Prime Minister for I don't know, a very short time. And he said, "Maine Ajmer Sharif done." So he went on Ajmer Sharif trip, although he had come from Umrah. So I don't know which higher office of faith was he visiting, but he went to go to Ajmer Sharif. And then we had, after that, Nawaz Sharif Saab went. And I'm sure Prime Minister Imran was also waiting for an invitation.
Very, very desperate. Very desperate.
Now, why I'm saying this is not reciprocal. In a situation like Pakistan and India, we must insist that if I come there, then it's your turn. If you don't come, then nobody is coming and going. That is reciprocity is very, very critical in a relationship, in a sustainable relationship with a country which is a neighbor, but which has very, very hegemonic ambitions, driven by a bigoted ideology. Please study Hindutva. Please study Hindutva. We in Pakistan must study. Unfortunately, again, since we are in the library and we are sitting with Dr. Sava, how many people in Pakistan do a PhD on India?
No.
How many? Pakistan should be the pivot of knowledge on India throughout the world. If somebody in the United States and California wants to know better about India, he should come to Pakistan. And we should be throwing up 100+ PhDs every year on various facets of India. India is such a big country. What are we doing? Why aren't we doing it? With the result that our knowledge about India is very cursory, very superficial. We reach at conclusions on the basis of some news on either WhatsApp or on some Indian channel or something, and then we keep quoting. The New York Times says that, the Washington Post says that. No, we, Pakistan, should be the base for all knowledge on India. We have so many universities, they should be all throwing on India. That is the sort of thing that we need. That is what will equip us to engage with India in a better way and hopefully for a friendlier relationship. But then, as I said, there will be no sound with one hand. A clap will only be with both hands. Unless there is reciprocity, forget about it.
I've started a school, so I'll start this system now.
Great.
Boarding.
So Brother Sahiba wants to ask a supplementary question.
क्योंकि आपसे जो सवाल हुआ था, किसी ने पूछा था, अभी आपने किसी और सवाल के लिए ये कहा कि ये सब इंस्टीट्यूशन, मतलब ये कि ये सियासी जो इंस्टीट्यूशन है या सियासतदान है उनका काम है, एंड द एकेडमी कांट डू ऑल दिस. लेकिन और इस वक्त आई अप्रिशिएट व्हाट यू सेड अबाउट द आर्मी, आई एग्री. लेकिन आप ये भी सोचें, why are so many people wanting to go into the army? It's not just.
I know that is the.
I mean, वो बजट और सबकी बात हुई थी, मुल्क के जो हालात हैं, तो I think that is the only way, because I know people who are looking for jobs और वो यही कहते हैं कि भाई वहाँ पे कुछ तो हो जाए देखभाल. लेकिन मेरा जो सवाल है वो ये है कि अगर आप पूरे 72 साल जो पाकिस्तान में रहा है और जो सियासत है, हम लोग के खैर जिस तरह इब्तिदा हुई उसमें भी मसाइल थे, लेकिन जो हम लोग की बोर्ड थी वो तो मुस्तकिल सियासत में दखल देती रही. और ये हम लोग को मालूम है कि जब बिल्कुल सामने मार्शल लॉ लग के नहीं हुआ तो पीछे से भी था. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन भी इस तरह बनाया गया जैसे ज़ियाउल हक साहब ने जो चेंजेस किए, ये पूरी 90s में भी फौज का काफ़ी अमल दखल सामने नहीं. ये सवाल बहुत अहम था जो किया था, जो आपने कह दिया कि मैं सियासत पे नहीं बात करूँगा, लेकिन यहाँ
फिर भी मैंने कर दी.
नहीं, अब आप उसका भी बताएं कि उसका मतलब है कि हम लोग की सियासत और फौज के सारे अफेयर मिले हुए हैं. और मैं भी वैसे हूँ मीडिया से, और मुझे मालूम है कि हम लोग पे आजकल कितना दबाव है, तो इसलिए आप अगर उसे थोड़ा सा बताते चाहें.
I had a very good friend in Singapore. He was the foreign minister of Singapore, Mr. George Yew, typical Chinese name. Very brilliant person. So one day I was struggling. I said, George, weren't you in the army? He said, yes. So I said, how the hell are you the foreign minister? He said, you see, we have developed such a system He said when I was a brigadier, their head of the armed forces is a major general. But they have good about 30, 40 brigadiers in the armed forces. Asif would be knowing that well. He said when I was a brigadier, I got a message from the Prime Minister's office that you will be, he said I was called in fact by the Defense Minister, and he said that you've been a brilliant officer, you've done very well, but now we want to change your career. And he said that tomorrow you will get a call from the Singaporeans have only one political party. Then you will get a call from the head of the political party, and you please go and report to me. Said I went there and he told me that you will be taking off your uniform next month and you will become member of the party and you will be contesting election from constituency number so and so. And he said the Defense Minister also had told me that although you are a very good officer, but you understand that out of you 25, 30, only one will become the Major General. He will be the head of the armed forces. The rest of you are not going to be promoted, but you are not going to be wasted. You are going to move laterally. And he said, I won the election. Singapore mein kitna election hai? What population of Singapore is? It's probably slightly bigger than Liari or something. And he said that I was after that member for a year or so, and then I was made the Commerce Minister. I said, were you groomed for this? He said, yes. He said, all captains of the Singapore Army, after doing their military courses, they go to one of the Ivy League universities in the United States, or Oxford or Cambridge or London School of Economics in the UK. And then when they become a lieutenant colonel, and after doing the war course, as you heard in my CV, then they go back to either do a PhD or to do a stint once again in these universities. So he said that you will find that in Singapore, the military officers know it and they are groomed that way. Now, similar is the situation in Israel, that you will find several of their prime ministers who were ex-army chiefs came through the democratic process. Now, these are countries which have actually tailored their security environment in such a way that there is a hybrid model where people of talent, wherever they are, you are from the military, you retire, you will not do anything. You can only become a senator. Like my good friend Al Qayyum is a senator. Now, and there is an aversion to accepting this lateral movement, which, in my view, given our strategic, our security culture and environment, we must evolve. We must learn from these societies. There is no harm. Yes, nobody will ever. If you ask Musharraf, and I have worked very closely with him, I appreciate. I knew his view, he would never have supported a military intervention. But there are environments which you are placed ultimately, the intervention takes place before you know. I would keep telling the generals who were junior to me and they came into positions, I would tell them, look, I know you don't want to have a military intervention, but please guard against being sucked in. Suddenly you will realize that there are some forces which have put you into a situation which throughout your life you didn't want. So these are the realities of Pakistan. These are not really, and we, if we are wise people, if we have care and love for the future of this country, not merely going along and thinking that no, it will take, you just leave it चलने दे तो ठीक हो जाए. More democracy means more democracy. Yes, democracy means more democracy. If there's a problem in a democracy or a bad democracy, you say give it more democracy. Provided direction to chal pade. If you know that you are heading for Islamabad and instead the guy is, on a different tangent, he is going to land up in Kandahar, then you have to tell him, go, this is the direction. Somebody has to do it. And I'm not saying that somebody is the military. Somebody from the polity should do it. Somebody from his own political party should do it. Somebody from the media should do it. Somebody from the civil society should do it. Somebody should do it. Otherwise we will keep drifting and we'll keep landing in problems, and then everybody will keep going around. It's always useful to give a small personal anecdote also. In May 1977, I was a major and I was posted in Maliki Kent. And there was a curfew in Karachi, extended curfew that Nizam and Mustafa. And I remember in that curfew there was a wedding of one of our friends, our age. It was in this, around Tariq Road, somewhere. It was from this, Sauda Galan Delhi type, place. And in that wedding, there were a lot of young people and other people who, when they knew that I was a major, so there was a curfew all over Karachi, so they were all wanting to know from me. And the only question they were asking me, "Yaar log take over kyun nahi kar rahe?" And it was an eye-opener for me when one of the, he's a big businessman now. At that time he was a young man, and he was a karta dharta in one of these business organizations. I don't want to name him because he was my friend once upon a time. He tells me कि सुना है ज़ियाउल हक आर्मी चीफ है, सुना है इसने 5 करोड़ रुपए लिए हैं पुट्टो से, इसलिए इंटरवीन नहीं कर रहा. This was May 1977. I was shocked. What's going on? And somebody turned around and in that same very wedding, somebody turned around and told me कि मैंने सुना है कि Mrs. Pirzada जो है, Mrs. Hafiz Pirzada, she is related to General Ziaul Haq. इसलिए General Ziaul Haq को take over नहीं करेगा. Quote unquote, these were the years. They haven't changed. I heard this. So in a situation like this, we are confronted. The military, wherever a soldier even goes, somebody, oh bhai, kab ho raha hai? This dragging and pulling in. I have a senior sitting, I'm sure sir, you will be able to give a more insightful this thing of what happened in those days. This is unfortunate, but this is what it is. Unfortunate. I hope it doesn't ever happen again.
Well, Singapore is not known for dissent in politics. It is, in spite of the facade of democracy, it is a very authoritarian state.
Political question, you have a right, everybody can ask a political question, but please give me the prerogative not to answer. That is my choice. You are saying, no, I'll ask you a question and you'll have to answer. Now that is too much. Okay, now coming on to your question, I'll pick up the best part of your question because that is my favorite. And that is that Pakistan will be denuclearized. This is the sort of thinking that we need to nip in the bud. This reflects our lack of faith in our country. When I was leaving, faith in our dignity, faith in our destiny, faith in Pakistan as a nuclear power. And I made these statements even when I was a serving chairman. I said those days when Pakistan's nuclear program was vulnerable are long gone. No nuclear weapon state can be doing nuclearized unless it's like South Africa and decides that no, we don't want it. There is no way, and we should not even think this way. Why? It reflects lack of national confidence. No. Nobody can take away our nuclear capability. We are a nuclear weapon state, and one of the important qualities of a nuclear weapon state is that it has self-confidence. There's confidence in itself. It behaves like a nuclear weapon state. ठीक है, हमारे और कमजोरियां हैं जो nuclear weapon states को नहीं होनी चाहिए. A nuclear weapon state shouldn't be going around with a begging power and seeking assistance also. And a nuclear weapon state, people should be paying their taxes also. Those are the qualities of a nuclear weapon state. But one quality that I want to underline is have self-confidence, have faith, and take pride in being a nuclear weapon state. Number two, falling into the hands of extremists and terrorists. This is a narrative against, first, this was called the Islamic bomb. Do you recall that? As if all other bombs were secular or faithless. Only our one had a faith. It was Islamic. Whether it was a Jewish or a Hindu or a Christian or whatever, they didn't have a faith, ours had a faith. First mistake. And we accepted it. We should have rejected it very, very forcefully. Yes, I'm glad there were many leaders who spoke back on that very strongly. Second thing that I want to tell you is, look, when they said the nuclear weapons will fall in the hands of extremists and terrorists, they were looking in the wrong place. Where did it fall in the hands of the terrorists and extremists? Next door. Who is Mr. Modi? You see, they kept on telling us that in Pakistan is a unlikely place where the finger on the nuclear button could tomorrow be of a religious fundamentalist or an extremist. Now, whose finger is on the button in India? Study who is Modi. You know, starting from 8 years, he went into the RSS. 8 साल का बच्चा RSS में भर्ती हो गया. Can you imagine? And then he went up the ladder, and then when he became the chief minister, a massacre of 2,000 Muslims, and then his mindset and his views are well known. What is an extremist? That is an extremist who, like many of our people, were on our travel restrictions. He couldn't get a visa to anywhere. And then they realized that he's becoming the prime minister and he started getting invitations instead of visas. So we must keep our finger on where it is. The problem, where has the extremist, where is the button, where is the finger of the extremist gone on the button? It's gone on in India.
Now I'm going to exercise my prerogative and wrap up this session, because we've been in session for 2 hours and I know there are many questions, but I'd like to ask 2 questions myself, if I may. The first is, how do you think we should proceed on Kashmir? And the second is that if there is peace in Afghanistan, and I hope there is, and the Taliban come into some power sharing arrangement, will they recognize the Durand line?
I think very important questions. First of all, about Kashmir. I am a little, surprised when I look at the national debate on the events of 5th August and subsequent. First reaction is, we are surprised. We should be surprised. That's why I said, let's not be ever surprised again. It was in the air. It was in their manifesto. It's a part of their ideology. You've heard, so many things about how the RSS and the BJP were clamoring for the integration of Kashmir into India, Jammu and Kashmir into India, and removing the Article 370 and 35A for the last 50 years. So that is the first thing we must keep in mind. Now, in this, what should be our response? In my view, we are acting emotionally, and in some of the responses that are emerging are really knee-jerk reactions. What else the Indians have done, or the BJP has done, or the Hindutva regime has done, is a culmination of years and years of preparation You see, they see the timing. They also timed that when Hindutva happens and then the Hajj happens, then Modi should also go to UAE and Bahrain, should go to Muslim countries before he lands up in France. Very methodically prepared. Now, our response doesn't have to be immediate. We are trying to mount an immediate response to an issue, to a situation which has taken years to unfold. We must take our time to evolve, as I said earlier also, a very well deliberated, substantive, and well prepared response to each of the elements of what has fallen out of August 5 in the political domain, in the diplomatic domain internationally, in the domain of information and developing narratives, in the domain of mobilizing our own people and the Kashmiris. And when we respond, the response will have elements which are short-term, medium-term, and long-term. There will be responses which will be overt and which will not be so overt. And I am not meaning in the context of non-state actors, but still responses are not all put on display to your enemy or to your adversary. And look, this is what I am going to do, 1, 2, 3, 10. No. Many of these elements will be overt, others will not be so overt. But we need a comprehensive panoply of responses which will cover. And that's why I said I hope this is a wake-up call for us. For example, we need to realize what have we been talking in this country about the two-nation theory over the last few years. What is our responsibility beyond the Kashmiris to the Muslims in India? What do we think about them? Has really the two-nation theory become irrelevant in South Asia, particularly with the rise of Hindutva? What is going to be our response? How far have we projected how the Indians are treating the Christians, the Sikhs, the Parsis, the Dalits within the Hindu faith? I mean, we need to take a breath. Fine, it's an emotional situation, and people expect a leadership to be demonstrated, and you have to do certain things. But while you do those, punches in the air, you also need to sit down and work out. Although in my view, it should have been worked out earlier. We should have been foreseeing this. But even now, fine. When it has unfolded, we should work out a very comprehensive response in all facets. This is my view on that. Now, with regards to Afghanistan, I hope, as I mentioned earlier, I hope it's not merely an agreement for the withdrawal of American forces. It's an agreement for peace in Afghanistan. That's the first thing we go for, because that is critical for Pakistan. It's mainly the US withdrawals. We have seen them leave this region earlier also. And that meant a lot of trouble for us. This is the first thing that I hope happens. Number two, we somehow or the other tend to think as if the Taliban are from Pakistan or something, or they are from Qatar. They are Afghans. And the Afghan thinking and behavior and rigidity and flexibility and likes and dislikes are very common. Now we keep telling this to our Afghan friends, look guys, now you are up against your own. So you better know what you are going to say, what you are going to ask, and what do you expect from them. Now, in my view, we should not, at least initially, overburden any new dispensation coming in Afghanistan. That will come and solve the Durand line issue with us. And I'll tell you again, anecdotal. I was in a conference in Paris with Afghans, very angry Afghans because they knew I was ex-DG ISI. Whether see an you know, just around the world, you put a rat. Everybody rushes for you. So the common brothers, they were mostly from the northern alliance. Taliban, so they knew General Ehsan, they would have gone, they know us. Yeah, Ehsan. Okay. Very angry things and all that. So over there, I talked to him fencing this border. This has been my favorite for the last about 15, 20 years. We must fence this border. So I spoke on, we must fence this border. And there was some very angry responses from the Afghans and all that. Fine. Then there was a coffee break and I went there. One of my Afghan friends who was an deputy interior minister, he came up, took his cup of coffee and walked up to me and he said, are you very angry and annoyed? I said, no, I'm not. I said, why are you saying that? He said, because you know all these Afghans just responded or retorted very angrily to your recommendation on fencing. I said, it's fine, it's okay, we know the Afghan viewpoint. He said, I just want to tell you. I said, why do you want to embarrass us? I said, no, you're our brothers, you don't want to embarrass you. Why do you think we want to embarrass you? He said, look, you want to fence this border? Go ahead and fence it. Who is stopping you? Where do you want us to come? Rub our nose on the ground, salute you and say, please fence, we agree, fence this border. Go ahead and do it. Second, the several Afghan ambassadors who have been in Islamabad and who have been with us in track crews and all that, when I talk to them on the Durand line, they turn around and say, Jansa, why are you raising an issue which is dead? I said, what do you mean? He said, look, have we ever objected that when the Afghan goods come on the border and there is a custom post and they check everything, have you ever said, no, we jointly work out the custom arrangement with you on this very line. We jointly, we check your people coming across and you check our people. So what else? Why do you want to say? He said, told me the same thing in a different language. That, look, do it. But don't ask us that, because it's a part of our internal political listening. If you ask us that we should write it down, maybe.
No, I wasn't implying that we should raise this issue. But I think sooner or later the Afghans, if the Taliban come into power sharing, I think sooner or later they will. I will not wrap up.
In this, let me just add on this. One of the, if you've been following the Afghan media, one of the Afghan presidential candidate, Padram something is his name, you can go back and Google. He said, but I consider Durand line as an international border, and we should stop this nonsense. The whole world accepts this as an international border. So why are we trying to make it? He's telling he's a presidential candidate in this election in Afghanistan, and he's openly saying that let's stop this nonsense of Durand line and this, that, and the other. We should accept this. So this sort of a talk and discussion and a debate is going on in Afghanistan.
I hope they all agree. General Ehsanullah, I want to thank you very, very much for coming here today. You traveled all the way from Islamabad and you have held us spellbound with your brilliant analysis, with your eloquence and the way in which you have fielded all these questions. I thank you very much indeed. I also want to thank my friend Abdul Qadir Jafar for reminding me that I'm only 18 years old, which has come as a great surprise as well as a matter of pleasure for me. This is the Journal which we have been publishing since 1948 without a break. It's the oldest journal of Pakistan, the oldest social science journal. Our institute was established in 1947. It's the oldest think tank in Pakistan. Thank you very much for coming, and anytime you're passing by, please come again. We will be delighted, all of us, to hear you. Thank you very much.